I'm going to call this meeting to the Senate Public Safety Committee to order. Thank you for being here at this late hour. As our session day went long, we're going to begin with a quick invocation from our very own Senator and Chairman Russ Goodman.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Y'all pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for today, Lord. We thank you for the blessing of being Americans, Lord. We all won a genetic lottery when we were born American citizens, Lord, and we're just so thankful that we have the opportunity to come here, Lord, and discuss the issues of the day. And, Lord, we just thank you that we have that opportunity, and we ask that you give us wisdom and discernment as we go about doing the people's business. And, again, Lord, thank you for your many blessings. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, we've got several bills in the calendar. The first one we're going to hear is the one we took testimony on Monday with Representative Camp. That's House Bill 1409, and you have a substitute that is in your folder. Why don't you go to the podium, if you don't mind, right now, just so all the people at home can see you on TV, Representative Camp. We do have sign-up sheets up front here. If you are signing up to speak on a bill, please remember it is a little bit late in the day. If you have multiple people that are all going to be saying the same things, it's great if you pick a spokesperson or two, and make sure you fill in all the different lines if you want to speak, because we need to capture that for the meeting notes. All right, I'm going to turn it over to you, Representative Camp.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And this bill, again, HB 1409, and I am working from LC 481834S.
That is correct.
Awesome. All right, so once again, this is a system that's going to hopefully strengthen and modernize, based on the information we have, the child abuse reporting system in our state. We did make some changes from the sub we had the other day, and we can go over those explicitly if you'd like. One is on page 15 from the previous bill. We had some information in there that related back to 45 CFR, and that was removed by Legislative Council. And we did a few little clarifications, but for the most part, the bill is pretty much the same.
Very good. There was obviously some emails back and forth that you and I were on with the department. Why don't you give us a quick explanation of that back and forth and what your input is based on that feedback?
Well, we've discussed a couple of different issues with the department. One issue that was mentioned was the 45 CFR and relating to the financing. Another thing that was mentioned in the hall just a moment ago related back to the use of an or instead of an and on regarding meeting some criteria. But outside of that, those have been primarily the discussion so far. They are opposed to this bill.
Okay. So my understanding is right now you all have been working in good faith at this point. You've gotten, I believe, to be a fairly comprehensive bill. You're down to just a couple of issues, though. With that in mind, I think it's appropriate to let the committee take what action they need to. And if you feel like you need to continue that process, either on the Senate floor or agreeing as amended back for the House in the effort of keeping your bill moving and alive, because I think it's important. We've already taken testimony on this bill on Monday, so I will leave it up to the will of the committee. I have a motion to pass from Senator Kim Jackson. Is there a second? I have a Senator Rick Williams as a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. Passes unanimously. Best of luck in the Senate Rules Committee, and who is carrying your bill?
That's a great question. Can I let you know shortly?
You can let us know, if you would, in the next hour.
I will. Thank you so much.
All right, very good. Okay, moving on. Next bill, we're going to have House Bill 283, Representative Neal. Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on. Yeah, come on. You're going to be very quick. You're going to be next, Senator or Representative. Would you go to the podium if you don't mind, sweetie? Thank you. We're trying to get more people on camera. It's a better view. All right. Where is 283? All right. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you to the chair. Thank you to the committee. Once again, I bring back House Bill 283, the traffic signature bill. This bill has moved out of this committee before. And once again, this bill was originally designed to do a few things. Reduce negative encounters between law enforcement and citizens, save taxpayer dollars, free up law enforcement for more high priority calls, and ensure that everyone goes home safe at the end of the night. So I guess in lieu of time, and to spare you the whole speech, all this bill does is codifies into law the ability for law enforcement to write, refuse to sign in instances where an encounter with a citizen who does not agree with a charge, and allows officers to take the safer route if they feel it appropriate that will make them feel safe and get home at the end of the night. This is a bipartisan bill with bipartisan co-sponsors, and it's also supported by the Georgia Chiefs that you should have a letter in your file from them, GMA, ACCG, Georgia Department of Public Safety, and the City of Chattahoochee Hills. And with that, I yield for any questions.
All right. First off, I want to say thank you to Representative Neal. You have worked this very, very hard over the last couple of years, and I know you missed it in the goal line and getting over on sine die, and I appreciate the great work you've done. In addition to her language, we did add something that's important, which is to extend out the ability to use a digital driver's license if you are driving your car and pulled over to the year 2032. That was set to be July 1st of 2027, so a year and a few months from now. That was a great idea. It was just a way ahead of its time. We found out that this could cost up to $1,000 per police officer to do that, and that includes either handheld devices and other type equipment. So while we think the technology is certainly going that way, we could not put that burden on our police departments, our sheriff's departments, our state police, et cetera. I've had a lot of conversations with all our great finest who serve in our state. So that is why you'll see that is the first section of Representative Neal's bill. We want to get this passed over and back over the House so she can get an agree pretty quick.
Yes.
I know I've got representatives here from the sheriffs, and I'm here from the police chiefs that are in favor of this, so nod your head if you agree. Okay. Questions from the committee to the bill's author? I think it's the, oh, hang on, we got a question from Senator Bearden.
So this right here, it says officer shall write refuse to sign on the citation. Does that take any other options away from the police officer if they so do it? So be it?
No, so it, once they do refuse to sign, they fall into another process where they have to come to court, and like they don't have any other options. They have to come to court to speak to the ticket. They don't have an option after they get the refuse to sign written on the ticket.
But if they refuse to sign, the officer only has one option under this bill, and that's to write refuse to sign on the bill.
Right. Because the problem we were having, I'm not sure if you were here for this discussion, the problem we were having is there's some agencies that it has the unspoken rule of, hey, you don't have to, they just put refuse to sign. Mm-hmm. But other agencies that don't have any type of policies, they found a lot of officers were getting in fights and all these things, and they want to reduce the back and forth and the negativity and the abrasiveness they were having on simple traffic stops. And that's why we shifted to codifying this in the law.
So as you said, because I have written refuse to sign on a citation before, and that was my discretion. So
It's still your discretion.
on 23, it says officer shall write.
Right, well, from the perspective of, so in the past, what has happened is officers felt like they could not do it at all. Does that make sense? And so we're letting them know this is a preferred option instead of you having to fight with a citizen over a simple traffic ticket.
We got some people covered. All right, question from Senator Robertson, the Vice Chair.
Okay, you're saying that it codifies the officer has the discretion, so does the officer still have the discretion to take the person into custody if they refuse to sign?
No,
So the officer doesn't have the discretion anymore?
pardon me. That's correct.
Okay. So, and are you saying we're taking away the right of a citizen to go to recorder's court and post bond and have the case bound over to state court?
No, so you still have to respond to the ticket of the date and be present on the date that is assigned to you on the,
That's right, but the date would be the first hearing date.
right.
Where right now, a citizen, if they choose not to go to the first hearing date, they can go and post a bond. In most cases, it's not a cash bond, it's a copy of their driver's license, and they can have the case bound over to state court and reach out and make arrangements, discussions, or whatever with the Solicitor General's office if they choose not to go to court in state court.
No, you have to, but if you get refused to sign on your ticket right now, you have to go to the court. You don't have the option to.
So we are taking away the option or the right of a citizen to go and waive their first hearing by posting bond and having their case immediately bound over to state court then.
I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding.
I know,
what
it's
you're
been a
posing the
minute, and I
question.
appreciate that.
No, it's fine.
I'll lay this out real quick. If I'm stopped in Columbus, Georgia, and I'm
Yes.
given a citation,
Yes.
I can go down to Recorder's Court, show them a copy of my driver's license. They will scan a copy of my driver's license. They will attach it as a bond. My case will be bound over to state court. Therefore, I void the first court hearing, and I will receive a notice from the Solicitor General's office saying when my court date will be so that I could show up and address it in state court. Normally, that is a couple of months out, which gives me the time to reach out to a prosecutor within the Solicitor General's office and negotiate, should I please, or should they be willing, to a lesser than what would normally be a fine or whatever, and make an explanation. But if I'm reading this correctly, if I refuse to sign a citation, then I do not have that option, and I have to go to that first hearing, which I don't have the option of having it bound over.
So if you do refuse to sign, you still have to go to, you can't pay you can't pay
No, I'm not
early, you
talking
can't do any of
about-
those
I'm
things.
not talking about paying it early. I'm
Right.
talking about having it bound over.
I haven't contemplated that. I
Yeah.
think this is the first time I've gotten that particular
Yeah.
question.
I think as we're reading through this, just to make sure everybody's seeing this, on line 18, we struck shall and replaced with may sign. So in the past, I think getting back to Senator Bearden's comment, and the feedback we got from our officers, and both sheriffs and chiefs of police, was shall, they had to sign, and people were concerned. Now, obviously, when Senator Bearden was on the street, he may have done that, and may have felt he had the latitude to do it. Some had felt they did not. I think that's the reason why we're getting to the point that in order to keep people safer, people felt more comfortable having a little latitude in here. By the way, this has been supported by those bodies. So. Okay, other questions for the bill's author? All right, seeing none, what is the will of the committee? A motion do pass from Senator Jackson. I've got a second from Senator Wicks. We have a proposed amendment from Senator Bearden. You're recognized.
On line 23, strike the word shall and replace it with may.
I think that would be a friendly amendment, Representative. All right, so we're going to call this the Bearden Amendment. On line 23, he is asking to strike the word shall, replace it may. Is there a second on his amendment? Got a second on the amendment. Any further discussion on the Bearden Amendment? We have further discussion from Senator Jackson.
Yes, can you say what the implications are of making this change?
Yeah, I'm working through that right now, too. Me, right?
You don't get the officer the discretion. And if it's worry about it, they may not be able to do it. Instead of putting shall, we're going to put may in there, and they can do it if their SOP wants to do that.
But if they don't do it,
Yeah, I think I know where you're going here. Okay, hang on a second. Let's talk through this, fellas. Let's begin the beginning of that sentence. If the person refuses to sign the citation, it shall constitute reasonable cause to believe that the person will not appear at trial, and the officer may or shall write refusal to sign ticket. So we've already saying they're not going to sign the ticket. If they're not going to sign the ticket, then you want to leave it blank?
Yeah, they need to write something.
the discretion is, may I be recognized,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman?
the discretion's on the top.
And the discretion is the next sentence, if I'm recognized, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
The officer may bring the person before a judicial order, so there's still opportunity there for the officer to make a choice. They have to write something.
Judicial officer to post a bond. Yeah, I don't know.
Let me recognize Senator Williams.
Taking that shall out and putting may in, the way I read it like it is this documentation.
Right.
It's merely all that is documentation by the officer that the person refused to sign.
Correct. I think you're right. Yeah.
That's the way I read it too.
I believe that's correct. Senator Bearden, do you want to,
I tell you what, we'll just pull the amendment and we'll withdraw it.
all right, we're going to withdraw that amendment. Okay. We are back to the question, are there any further amendments on LC 630157S? We can have a discussion right now.
Yeah. So reading what you're saying, Mr. Chair, if I'm reading that line on 24 that says the officer may bring the person before a judicial officer or traffic violations bureau to post bond as is otherwise provided by law, then they can still be taken into custody. Is that correct?
They can do either.
Yep.
This really documents discretion is basically what I see it as.
So I think, if I can, whenever at the appropriate time, I can comment.
This is-
Go ahead.
We're in the part of it where you're not allowed to talk. I'm
No,
sorry.
go ahead. No,
This is
go
a
ahead.
committee discussion.
So,
yeah.
yeah,
I think I think that should be struck, shouldn't it?
oh, I don't think so.
No, I think you should leave that. Yeah. I think it's right. All right, I'm looking at my my friend Mike from the Sheriff's. All right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say no. No. All right, I've got 2 noes. Please document accordingly. All right, thank you very much. And who's carrying this wonderful bill for you? I think it's me. Okay, all right. All right, next up, we're going to go out of order and bring up House Bill 1283. Representative Panich, I want to, as you're coming up to the podium, please, I want to thank you for your great work on this bill. You're always very thoughtful and work together with great people when you bring legislation forth.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Members of the committee, this is 1283, the Family Justice Center Act, and please forgive my voice. This bill is both a victim safety bill and a law enforcement safety bill. What's happening in Georgia, according to the Georgia Commission on Family Violence, 42,184 reported incidents of family violence in our state in 2024, a 12% increase from the year before. 70% of those victims were women, which translates to an estimated 129,000 adults and nearly 18,000 children were victims of family violence. This is from 2023, and the FBI has named Atlanta one of 14 cities in the country with the highest rates of child trafficking. Family justice centers help that. They bring law enforcement, prosecutors, victim advocates, social services, counseling, legal aid, and community organizations together under one roof, one location, one intake, if they choose. The survivor tells her story once, and help comes to her. She doesn't have to go from one office to another office to another office over different days, each day missing a day from work, maybe lose her job, and each time, and maybe not have childcare, each time creating a barrier for her to leave her abuser. In Georgia, we already have 3, but they have been put together piecemeal, and this would establish a statewide framework. Macon and Waycross, who you'll hear from, are already proving what family justice centers can mean for the state. In Waycross, the Family Justice Center serves 6 counties: Bacon, Brantley, Charlton, Coffee, Pierce, and Ware. And in Macon, the center primarily serves Macon-Bibb and is prepared to assist victims from 7 other counties: Crawford, Houston, Monroe, Peach, Jones, and Twiggs. They're strengthening entire regions. And the results that we're seeing from other places where the family justice centers are enacted, in San Diego, where the first family justice center opened, domestic violence homicides dropped by 90%.
Wow.
In Brooklyn, intimate partner homicides fell 43%. Guilford County, North Carolina, has reported consistent reduction. Domestic violence incidents also represent the highest number of fatal calls for police officers, 29% of officer line of duty deaths. When survivors have a safe place to go before the next 911 call, when abuse is stopped sooner through coordinated intervention, it saves lives of the survivors and of the officers. Before you, you have letters from the Ware Department of Family and Children's Services, Waycross Sheriff, Waycross Police Chief, North Georgia Elder Abuse Task Force, Small and Rural Law Enforcement Association, Association of Prosecuting Attorneys, Waycross Family Justice Center, Mayor of Waycross, and the Animal Welfare Institute. And there are letters from Miss Warren's third grade class at Teasley Elementary in Cobb County. They're going to be watching this. As part of a lesson about how laws are made, the children from Miss Warren's third grade class have been eagerly observing this legislative session, especially HB 1283. These are cards, which I will hand, you can just pass them around to take a look, as a heartfelt thank you from the class for working so hard for our community. They are learning about the legislative process and are excited to watch the upcoming proceedings. And with that, I'm open for questions.
Thank you for that great overview explanation. Questions from the committee members to the bill's author? Question from Senator Robertson, our Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, ma'am. I can tell you, I know the chair of the Governor's Commission on Family Violence really likes this legislation. My question is there a cost to this consolidation of services, which I do appreciate the fact that we need to consolidate these services?
Thank you for the question, and I should have addressed that in my remarks. No. It does not, it's not a mandate. It doesn't create new state agency. It does not impose unfunded mandates on local governments. It gives communities, if they want to do better for survivors with a legal framework to do it right. This will be under the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, and most of these agencies, either nonprofits or other agencies, have grants that are given from the federal government or the state government. So we're not asking for any funding.
And the final question, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, would you say this offers much-needed continuity throughout the state, addressing the multiple issues that impact these victims?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions for the bill's author? Senator Bearden.
So currently, is this going to be funded basically through the Victims Assistance Grant?
Well,
Program?
yes, or multiple
The
programs
Local
that,
Victims Assistance Program?
yeah.
And the reason why I asked that,
No, I'm sorry, I'm hearing no, I'm seeing no's from some of my speakers. Well, some of them are nonprofits that don't get grants. Okay, sorry, I'm just gonna, I have witnesses who can testify to that.
because currently right now, if I'm not mistaken, 5% of the cases, the money goes to help fund the Local Victims Program, correct? Assistance Program.
I'm seeing shaking heads no.
You're talking about the DV money?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're talking that goes to the council, they give it to the DA's office.
And then it goes to local victims. And the reason why I'm asking these questions is because about 20 years ago, we did have a commission that was created, and it was created by law for oversight for these victim assistance programs. And my committee, along with my vice chairman, Chairman Robertson, on this, when we looked at it, there was a lot of offices around the state where they had more money than that 5% in reserves that they could have that's just postcode to victims, and that's what we're working on right now. So we want to make sure the money that's going to be coming in and how that money's coming in is going back to the victims. Because depending on how this is done, you may have an answer for what we're looking at, but I just want to make sure to what monies are coming in to fund this.
There are no monies in the bill that are dedicated for this.
This sets up the framework and the foundation for them to do that using existing dollars, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Other questions, Senator?
No, I'm good right now.
All right. Other questions for the bill's author? We've got a few people signed up to speak, but if you're going to play this video for Ms. Warren's class, we want to thank you. I have the honor of representing part of Cobb County. We've got your wonderful notes here. So if you're seeing this on video, we're very proud of you. Thank you for being a part of this process. Well done. All right, Representative, if you want to stand by for a moment, we're going to bring up a few people. Going to begin with Dr. Greg Young, is that right, Captain? Come on up to the podium if you would, sir. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name.
No, sir, you didn't.
All right. Thank you for your service, Captain.
Thank you. Chairman Albers and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Dr. Gregory Young, Sr. I do serve as a captain over criminal investigations for the Waycross Police Department. I've been with the department for 20 years, and I have the privilege of serving as one of the direct supervisors for the detective who's assigned to our local Waycross FJC. Today I'm here to speak on support for the Family Justice Center model and the importance of legislation such as House Bill 1283, which recognizes and validates the role of family justice centers can play in Georgia's response to domestic violence, sexual assault, and other crimes. In Waycross, our FJC has worked to bring together a wide range of partners that you've heard earlier. At our center, victims are able to connect directly with partners such as law enforcement, domestic violence advocates, behavioral health professionals, legal services, public health reps. And having these partners working together in one location dramatically improves how we respond to victims and how efficiently cases move through the system. From a law enforcement perspective, the benefits are significant. When our officers respond to domestic violence situations, victims often need immediate safety planning, legal guidance, counseling, and help navigating through these complex systems. Traditionally, victims will have to go from agency to agency, and here they have it all under one roof. With partners located together, victims can speak with advocates, begin the process, obtain temporary protective orders, connect with prosecutors, receive referrals. The coordinated response benefits victims, but it also benefits law enforcement in the prosecution of the case. When agencies collaborate in real time, information sharing improves, investigations move more efficiently, and victims are far more likely to stay engaged in this process, which strengthens the case. Another key benefit in navigation is many victims entering the system are very overwhelmed. The ability to walk into one center and be guided through the services available in the community, from legal assistance to counseling to safety planning, creates such a stronger support network. I would encourage the policymakers and community leaders to visit our center to experience firsthand how these services look. While that concept of the FJC is relatively new in Georgia, it is not new in the United States. Across the country, there are 153 FJCs in 43 states. These centers have demonstrated tremendous success in improving victim safety, increasing accountability for offenders, and strengthening collaboration. In Waycross, within our first year, we have seeking services through our center has increased by more than 300% compared to our initial projections. That increase reflects not only the need that exists in our community, but also the trust victims place in the system. We're proud of the work being done in Waycross and grateful for the opportunity to be among the first communities in Georgia to successfully implement a full-service family justice center. House Bill 1283 represents an important step forward in our state. It helps establish the framework that recognizes family justice centers, encourages collaboration, and ensures these centers can grow. Chairman Albers and members of the committee, thank you for your leadership on issues affecting victims and public safety. We appreciate the opportunity to share our experience. Also, thank you, Senator Russ Goodman was also there with the opening of our Waycross Center. I also like to acknowledge Director Michelle Gerkman, who's our director of our Waycross Family Justice Center. Thank you.
Thank you for that great testimony. Appreciate it, Captain. All right, next, David Davis. It's a good name.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you.
I'm Sheriff David Davis from Bibb County, down in
Thank you for your
Macon,
service.
Bibb. And we were one of the first, along with Waycross, to have a family justice center. And so we have been there with the forefront and have seen what a good thing that these justice centers can do, because it does away with a system where a victim of domestic violence or sexual abuse or something like that has to go to 4 or 5 different places at 4 or 5 different locations to 4 or 5 different entities all over town. This brings it all into one place where they can go and get the help that they need and get the services that need from both law enforcement, victims assistance, DFACS, all of those helping agencies, because as we all know, with transportation costs and things like that, that is a burden to a number of individuals who may be victims of domestic violence or things like that, to make them have to travel from one place to another to get services that are basically a human right and basically owed to everyone who is a victim of this type of crime. But when we speak specifically to this bill, I'm gonna sort of speak like we do in Middle Georgia. This is common sense, something y'all might not hear too much, but this is common sense legislation for law enforcement, for victims, and everything. And it also speaks to records, because you have so many different entities in there. You have DFACS, you have the DA's offices, you have different entities, and each one of those entities is governed in some form or fashion by different parts of the open records law. Well, this sort of codifies two things. It codifies the legislature's support for family justice centers, but it also codifies who gets to keep what records. It's sort of, if you want to use it in the vernacular, you get to dance with who brung you. If you're a law enforcement agency and you have those records and you created those records, then they fall under the Open Records Act of law enforcement. The DA's office, the very same, DFACS, all of that. So it sort of codifies all of that so we have some clear direction, so that as we open up more of these throughout Georgia, everybody will be on the same page. So I strongly support, I speak for other sheriffs and law enforcement, the captain here from Waycross and others in strong support of this measure, and hope you all will see likewise also.
Sheriff Davis, thanks for your plain good talk, and thank you for the service of you and everyone who you lead.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, and last but certainly not least, last name is Borman. I'm going to miss your first name, and you may want to have been a doctor, but the way you've written it. Weren't you?
Good evening. My name is Jamie Borman. I'm the secretary for the Georgia Commission on Family Violence, and I think you guys heard that the chair of the Georgia Commission on Family Violence likes this bill, but I wanted to affirm the support of the Georgia Commission on Family Violence. I believe all of you received a letter from Director April Ross, and so I just wanted to be here to affirm that support.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your testimony. All right, Representative Panich, why don't you come back up here? We heard some great testimony and heard about this bill. Are there questions from the committee members? All right, I think it's the appropriate time. I'll recognize Senator Jackson again.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. It's my honor to make a motion move to pass on House Bill 1283 LC 481779S.
I've got a motion to pass. Do I have a second? I've got a second from Senator Goodman. Is there any further discussion from the committee members? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody has a fever, please say no. All right. Great job, and I believe Senator Robertson, the whip, is going to carry that for you?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Excellent work, and thank you all for being here today. We greatly appreciate your time. All right, we're going to get back to House Bill 494. Representative McLean, are you here? Uh-oh. There's a lot we could do with this bill. The bill's author is not here. All right. In deference to Representative McLean, who's served with great honor in the House of Representatives, we passed this bill out last year. It actually got pulled out of rules, but unfortunately did not make it on sine die. And what this did is it increases the amount of coverage for a moped that is getting into an accident to make sure that it doesn't end up falling on the other person's insurance because they're not carrying the minimum insurance as the rest of us do who are riding on our roadways. I think it's a pretty straightforward bill. We didn't have any concerns with it last time. Is there anybody who would like to speak on behalf of the committee for House Bill 494? Seeing none, what is the will of the committee?
Move to pass.
I got a motion to pass from Senator Williams. I had a second from Senator Halpern. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. Passes unanimously. Best of luck to Dewey. And I do not know who's carrying that bill right now. Let's check who was carrying it last year, Will, and we will just give it the same person. All right. And now, last but certainly not least, Representative Lim, why don't you come on down? We're going to look at House Bill 1161. We are working off of LC 630158S. And go ahead and tell us all about your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Committee. I am here presenting HB 1161. The LC that you just read is a substitute that I did not introduce, but it includes the part of my bill as it passed out of the House, and that's the part that I'm going to address, if that's the part I'm prepared to address.
All right,
as
and
it
we'll
were.
have the good Representative McDonald come up
yes.
after and talk about his important part.
Yes, so, and to be clear, the substitute in front of you, I believe, the first part of that was the bill that passed originally out of the House. And that's the part that I'm going to talk about. It was originally brought to me by my own police department, Gwinnett County Police, and there's a letter from an officer from GCPD in there. They asked me to champion it, and it is supported by both the chiefs of police and the Sheriff's Association. What this bill simply does is to clarify explicitly that when a law enforcement officer is attempting to pull a moving vehicle over to make a traffic stop, that vehicle should move to the right-hand curb of the road, provided that it is safe to do so. This principle, I think, is obvious to most of us, so I was quite surprised when my police department brought it to me, and I found out that it was not, in fact, codified in our law. What is codified per subsection A of that section is when there are emergency vehicles and law enforcement vehicles attempting to pass, that you move over to the right. However, that only applies to passing vehicles, and courts here in Georgia have interpreted it precisely that way. I'll cite two cases in the Georgia State Court of Appeals, Jackson v. State and Burrell v. State. Per Jackson, we note that under the plain language of the statute, a person violates this provision when he fails to yield the right of way in order to permit an emergency vehicle to pass. That was in italics. To violate the statute, an individual must obstruct the roadway, thereby preventing an emergency vehicle from proceeding upon its route in pursuit of a fleeing suspect or other emergency. The officer's stated purpose was to stop, in that case, the defendant for speeding, and therefore the provision did not apply. Of course, those are just two cases, but since introducing this bill and before, we've heard from many law enforcement officers enumerating and explaining the problem, people stopping in the middle of the road. So they are in fact stopping, but doing so at the left or the middle of the road where it is quite unsafe to do so. By harmonizing our law on traffic stops with the existing law on passing emergency or law enforcement vehicles, we create a consistency and a clarity that will, we believe, lead to better and safer practices, as well as just a more uniform application of a law, because, as you can guess, this has created some confusion among law enforcement officers and some unequal applications, understandably so. At the same time, the language, like the language on passing vehicles, leaves room for circumstances where it may not be safe practice. So it still leaves some room. It's not a black and white rule, and we've carved a really good, in our opinion, balance here. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions on that part of the bill.
All right, questions to the representative about the first part of the bill? Seeing none, we're going to ask you if you just step down for a moment, because we want to bring you back up at the end.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Chairman McDonald, would you mind coming up to the podium and telling us about Section 2, please?
Thank you to my favorite public safety chair. You were last week my favorite public safety chair.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Well, thank you,
Yes.
sir. I appreciate that. So, gentlemen, the bill you just heard is a great bill. This is why we decided to use this bill as kind of a vehicle to do it, because Representative Lynn did do a lot of work on his bill, and it is a great bill for the citizens of Georgia. But today I want to, along with HB 1161, I've attached a former Bill 1265 to this. And basically, the bill is, as Section 2 reads, it's simple in concept, but it's very powerful on impact. It says if you flee from the Georgia State Patrol Department of Public Safety, every mile you run equals a mandatory month in jail. 1 mile, 1 month, no probation, no plea downs, no exceptions. Members, we're here today because too many innocent Georgians are being injured and killed by criminals who choose to run from law enforcement. High-speed pursuits are no longer rare events. They are becoming routine, and the public is paying the price. Just a few weeks ago, in Savannah, a school teacher lost her life while a fleeing suspect ran a red light and caused a fatal crash. The very next vehicle in the intersection was a mother with her children. They were seconds away from being the next headline. The teacher went to work that morning expecting to come home to her family. She didn't. And for what? Because someone was deciding that running from the police was worth the risk. The reality is most people who flee law enforcement are not doing it for traffic violations. They're running because they have drugs in the car. They're running because they have outstanding warrants. They're running because they're already criminals, and they think the system is weak. And unfortunately, too often, they're right. Our current system allows people who endanger the public to be released on OR bonds, only to go right back out and do the same thing again. There's no real deterrent here in Georgia. This bill applies specifically to the Georgia Department of Public Safety, which in this bill includes the Georgia State Patrol, the Commercial Vehicle Enforcement, the Georgia Capitol Police. These are the agencies handling the most of the dangerous high-speed pursuits on our highways and interstates. Once an officer determines that a driver is initially fleeing and establishes the pursuit, a 1080, the mileage is logged. And from that point forward, every mile equals 30 days in jail. There's no discretionary clause. This is mandatory. Let me be clear about something important. This bill is not about punishment for punishment's sake. It's about deterrence and public safety. We're trying to change behavior before tragedy happens with this bill. We're telling criminals, if you run in Georgia, you will sit in jail, period. Not a fine you can ignore, not a slap on the wrist, not a plea bargain. Real time, real consequences. The bill also includes enhanced penalties for aggravated fleeing, excessive speed, causing a crash, hitting another vehicle or pedestrian, driving under the influence, or leaving the state of Georgia during a pursuit. In those cases, it becomes a felony with mandatory prison time. Again, no probation, no release, no sentence reductions. Members, we pass laws every day that react to tragedy after it happens. This bill is designed to prevent the tragedy in the first place. Every officer I've spoken to says the same thing. Criminals run because they believe they can and can get away with it. It puts fear back in the decision to flee, and sometimes fear saves lives in Georgia. We as legislators have a responsibility not just to criminals, but to the families driving next to them, to the teachers going to work, the children riding in the back seat, and the troopers risking their lives to protect us all. This bill sends a clear message, strong and unmistakable message. Georgia will not tolerate people turning our highways into racetracks. Georgia will not tolerate criminals gambling with innocent lives, and Georgia will not tolerate fleeing from law enforcement. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Representative. I want to share some personal testimony. I have been out with our finest GSP officers many times, and I've been on several high-speed chases. And several years ago, one of the ones we were on, we pitted a car, finally got them to a point of stopping and pulled them out, and the troopers asked him, "Why did you run?" We thought, "Well, we thought you were Atlanta PD and you're not allowed to chase us." Now, Chief Shearbaum has done a great job by reinstituting some of that, and they're going less now. But I've been on several other chases since then that put so many people's lives in danger. They're not only just fleeing and leaving, they're putting themselves, the officers, and everybody in the public in grave harm. They're doing a lot of physical, emotional damage, and I appreciate you bringing this part of the bill forward. There are questions from the committee to the bill's author. I see, you going first? Senator Jackson will let you up there. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you just speak to Section 3 in your bill, lines 122 to 133? I don't believe that you mentioned those in your summarization, so if you could just speak to those. It's page 6,
Got it. Which lines again?
that section. What do you, what
Page
are we,
6.
what are we striving to do? Are we making it so that people can no longer continue to drive until it is reasonably safe to pull over? Because that's what's been struck.
I think this might be back to, is this Representative?
I think
Lynn
that
part of
goes
your
back to
original
his
bill?
original bill.
Is that what's happening?
Yes.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
for
that's not
clarification.
part of the legislation that I attached to this.
So this might be for the other author.
We'll bring him back up when we're done.
Okay.
All right.
Then may I ask another question, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
Related to your portion of the bill. So is it your understanding that a person will calculate in their mind how many miles they're willing, how many months they're willing to go to jail while they're fleeing? Like, is it your understanding that somehow a person that's running from the police is going to be deterred from going more than 1 mile or 2 miles because they don't want to have more than 2 months in jail? Like, just talk to me about in your mind how you think this is actually going to work as a deterrent.
Well, it's worked with our move over law. If you ride down our roads and highways, because we've enforced it, and people talk, communication is out there. You see the messaging on social media about move over laws. The same thing will happen with the people that are fleeing from law enforcement that are running with drugs in their car or others. They will talk. They all have their own social media outlets that they talk on. I've ridden with the State Patrol like Chairman Albers, and you can see where they're socially they're talking and with between each other. And I think we've got to do something, and it's just happening way too often. Just as Chairman Albers said that Atlanta's reinstituted some policies to chase. The cab about a year ago instituted their chase policy back, and it's working. And we've got to do something because our system, whether it's Fulton, DeKalb, or Forsyth, is not the same. We've got to have some parity within our judicial system for these people that are running from law enforcement. We've got to send a clear message because people are dying on the streets. The young man that died in 5 Points about a year and a half ago, somebody was running from law enforcement and they hit him, and an innocent victim lost his life. And as I said in my statement, these criminals are carrying drugs. They have warrants, and we got to get them off the street somehow.
Yeah, I mean, so to be clear, I don't support people running from the police. I'm just struggling to understand the relationship between sending someone mandatory to jail for a month for every mile, because I'm not a criminal, but if I were a criminal, I would not be calculating as I'm driving, ooh, that's 1 month in jail, that's 2 months in jail, that's 3 months in jail. Like that, I do not believe is how the mind of the criminal works. And so I'm just confused about how this is actually going to function as a deterrent for this type of behavior.
If I could just add to that, I hear what you're saying. The criminals talk, though, and they know that if I flee, I am mandatory going to jail. And I think what Representative McDonald has done so eloquently is said, the more you do it, the more the punishment, and the punishment ought to fit the crime. So it's amazing how the bad guys talk, and again, not just with the GSB, with GBI, and all the work that I've been involved with the last 16 years. It's quite unique. But I'm going to ask for Senator Robertson, because I think he's going to bring some unique perspective from his background.
I think, and I understand what you're asking, but the person that shoplifts, there's a certain financial amount that changes shoplifting from a misdemeanor to a felony. I don't think anybody walks around with a shopping cart and a calculator trying to measure between a misdemeanor and a felony. I think when an individual goes out and they run from law enforcement, they know they're breaking the law. Rarely do they know what the sentence is and what the ramifications are. And something that's much older than me is something we use as ignorance of the law is no excuse. When you got to break the law, you break the law. And you choose to put yourself into the courtroom. So I had this, when I first read it, I got to thinking, I hope somebody understands how far they can drive. But then the shoplifting thing rolled into my head. So I don't think that really rolls into what we find in here from my perspective of felony, misdemeanor, and how far you run from the police. I think the ultimate goal is to get them to stop running, to pull over and receive whatever citation.
That's a really good
that they're not
comment.
required now to sign.
Except if you were in San Francisco, where the crazy policies out of that, and they actually carried around a calculator, because as long as they were under $1,000, they could walk right out of the store and nobody could stop them. We wonder why they're going downhill. All right, other questions for committee members? I got a question from Senator Bearden.
Thanks for bringing this. It's a great bill. I do have one question. How about for cities and counties, deputies?
That's a great question. When we were designing this bill, I've been working on this for 2 years, Senator, and working with the State Patrol. So, I was looking at it from a state perspective, the organization that trains the most on traffic. As former law enforcement yourself and your counterpart next to you, y'all were trained on multiple facets of law enforcement, traffic, going to people's homes for burglaries, to just general citations that you would go out with warrants. The State Patrol, Commercial Vehicle Enforcement, and the Capitol Police, they were highly trained. They go to the same training. They're highly trained on traffic. And I had the State Patrol just in the beginning, and the Colonel asked me to add those other two parts of their agency to this. The command staff was here earlier. They had to leave, but they came here in support of this bill. But it's something we can look at in the future. But I think this is a first blush at this, and hopefully the message, by doing it with the State Patrol, the message will go statewide that everybody they won't know the difference. That if you run from law enforcement, you'll spend time in jail.
Because out in the training center when I was there, I outdrove Lieutenant Mooney on a constant basis, and my driving was much better than his.
The Senator's very passionate about what he speaks.
So, for right now, you would not be interested in expanding this to cities?
I would not. No, sir.
Okay.
I'd like to give it at least a 2-year window to look at, and hopefully we make an impact. This is a very important piece of legislation.
100%.
And it's not going to be popular with everybody. I get that, but I have to step up, and we as a legislature have to step up and make a difference because, this teacher in Savannah, as I said in my opening statements, the next car was a mom and her kids, and it would have been them.
Got a question from Senator Williams.
Thank you for bringing this forward. Did you think about suspending their driver's license for 10 years or something also to go along with it? I mean, that's just a thought. But I like the bill, and I thank you. But to Senator Bearden's point, going down the road and then all of a sudden the Christmas tree lights up behind you, is it State Patrol or is it county? A lot of times they can't tell the difference because they're lit up with those bright lights, and hopefully it's going to send a message, and they're going to say, it's not worth the risk. Let me pull over. So I'm hoping it'll work. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I hear what you're saying in the license. I'm here to hopefully teach a lesson. I mean, if people do this, they do it one time. Whatever the mileage was, the first time, you won't spend, if you go the 24 miles, you're going to get 2 years. If you go 40 miles, you're only going to get 2 years for your first offense. I'm not here to punish somebody where they can't have a driver's license and go to a job. This is to say, don't do this. And if you do it again, the punishment gets worse, the fine gets worse. As far as the driver's license thing, third attempt, I wouldn't have a problem if, suspending it for their time in jail or a few years after they get out of jail. But I like the bill as it's written. We've worked hard to get it to where we are.
Very good. Final question from Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am wondering about speed and the type of chase. So, there's a very famous police chase that those of us who are of a certain age watched, a white Bronco that drove for many, many, many miles, right? But not at a speed or a rate that I think was particularly, but I'll bring it closer to home. I actually have a constituent whose wife is from another country and was driving, did not realize it was an unmarked vehicle that was trying to pull her over. It did have lights, but she did not understand, just from her newness, what was going on. And so she drove several miles before she was ultimately pit maneuvered to make her stop. A judge would hear that case and understand that there were extenuating circumstances in terms of her ability to understand all those things. There were mitigating circumstances that would have resulted in her not being charged a month for every mile. And so I'm just curious if you've given that consideration. Like, she wasn't speeding, she just kept driving at the rate of the normal speed, right? Like, are you willing to consider any moderation around this, that there are mitigating circumstances, that if I keep driving at 15 miles an hour for 3 miles, that maybe you shouldn't charge me and make me sit in jail for 3 months, when, as compared to the person who's driving 90 miles an hour and really seeking to do some real damage?
Well, I want to answer the part about your friend, the Georgia State
That's
Patrol.
my constituent now.
The constituent. The Georgia State Patrol does not have unmarked vehicles out here pulling people over. Every vehicle is marked. So this bill is for the Georgia public safety. So every vehicle will mark, so it would not affect your
That means
constituent.
that the colonel's got to get his car marked.
Exactly.
No, he does.
Occasionally he does, but I feel pretty good about that one, so. Okay. Any further questions to committee members? Seeing none, Representative Lim, why don't you come back up if you don't mind?
Thank
and
you,
we're going to
committee.
close you out. Representative Lim, because we did not talk about Section 3, which Senator Jackson brought up, why don't you just take us through the final section of the bill where you are striking out subsection E from 40-8-91.
Excuse me, I did not.
That's fine. It'll be on
have
the
a
last
copy.
page, page 6.
So to Senator Jackson's point, we are taking this language and putting it into the language that is now lines 25 through 35. That's language that regards the room to say, yes, go to the right if it's safe to do so. What current law that we're striking out in Section 3 essentially says use what is reasonable to figure out where to stop, and that's what's led to the confusion. So we're still taking that part of it to, again, to have some safety valves, because it's not always going to be in 100% of every instance safe to pull over to the right. There might not be a curb, for example, but we're still taking that language and putting into lines 25 through 35.
All right, got a question from Senator Robertson.
Yes, and I had some concerns when I first saw that, and it was actually going to be my first question. My concern about striking this language is if my wife is out driving at 11:30 at night and it's really dark, and the vehicle that goes to pull her over is a slick top, which means there's no lights on the roof, they're all in the grill and everywhere else. And I despise these ghosted vehicles. The taxpayers should be able to see law enforcement officers out doing their job. We're not trying to sneak up and catch anybody. It's what we shouldn't be doing. But do you feel that these strikes impact the ability of my wife, if she's in the right lane, to drive to a well-lit area, say the convenience store on 315, and while driving there, calling the Harris County Sheriff's Office to ensure that the vehicle behind her is in fact a law enforcement vehicle?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to be clear, I would never
It is.
endanger one
Direct
mystery.
direct me to that section.
Yes,
Line
it's,
30.
it's in lines 30, or lines 31 through 35.
Yeah.
So we are striking it, but moving it. We're not completely eliminating it, and it's precisely to ensure that exactly the instance that you just mentioned and similar instances like
Okay.
it do not happen.
Here's what I want. I want to make sure I'm looking at the same thing. Such motorists shall indicate. Would you show me where that is in the new language?
Thirty-three.
That's not in there.
Such motorist, in what I'm reading, the part, such motorist shall indicate to the officer his or her intent to pursue to a safe location by displaying the vehicle's flashing lights or turn signal. In proceeding to a safe location, the motorist shall observe the posted maximum speed limit. Is that, I don't see that in there.
Lines 33 and 34.
Is it different language?
It's not exactly the same, and if the committee feels more comfortable adopting the exact same language as before, but the intention certainly was to import what was already in existing
So,
statute.
yeah, you're saying stopping and remaining in an unsafe location where originally it was proceeding to a safe location. So you're saying it backwards, basically. And
Correct.
Because my biggest concern, and again, I think Senator Bearden and I are becoming Siamese twins through this public safety stuff, which I think will improve his appearance. But my concern are individuals impersonating law enforcement officers and doing traffic stops. Is my concern, and so that's just a concern I have, and I think it's something we can talk about as we move through the process if the chairman so chooses to.
I think now would be the appropriate time if we feel that we need to make an amendment to clarify that we should do that while we're all together. I'm reading, again, the way that they said that in the original one, going back to Senator Robertson's point. I'm going to go to line 29 to begin. Intent to proceed to a safe location by displaying vehicles flashing lights or turn signal, proceeding to a safe location, motor shows there the post speed limit. That's where that begins, the back which was struck. Now we're changing it up here to, if you've been on line 32, however, that when such requirement result in stopping and remain in an unsafe location, as opposed to going to a safe location, such operator may display flashing lights, turn signal, observe the maximum speed limit posted, and continue to a reasonably safe location to stop and remain in position. I think it does say the same.
And look, I'm going to be fine with that. It's worded kind of strange because while I am extremely pro law enforcement, I think we have to be careful because we do know there are bad actors out there. It's the same thing with the signing of the citation. I think we yield too much in law enforcement for safe traffic stops based on erroneous media reports and edited video and all this other stuff on traffic stops. I think we already put officers in dangerous positions by yielding so many things. But in these types of situations, I think we attempted to solve this problem a few years ago, some legislation that did not get through, but I'm comfortable if the committee's comfortable that language articulates what we're concerned about. But
All
I'll
right.
yield to the will of the committee.
Okay, we okay? Anybody? Well, my counterpart feels great, so I'm feeling pretty good. I do believe it's okay. All right, other questions for the bill's author? Seeing none, what is the will of the committee? Got a motion to pass from Senator Williams. Do I have a second? Second from Senator Dixon. Any further discussion of the committee members? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed? All right, one opposed. Thank you. And Representative Lim, who is going to carry this bill for you in the Senate?
It was to be Senator Robertson if he's still okay with that.
I'll be honest with you. When you invited a firefighter in to amend your bill, knowing how much they have an unhealthy affection toward law enforcement officers, I'm a little concerned about carrying it. But as of right now, I would like to have further conversation on it. So if someone else on the committee would rather carry it, I'm happy with that.
Well, in order to get your bill moving forward, I'm going to ask you one important question, Representative. And if you know the answer, you're going to be in a good place. You know why God created firefighters?
Because God created fire?
No, because the police officers needed heroes. It's too bad. You're
Guess
doing
it's-
so well on your bill. All right.
My answer was very biblical, though. And again, to be absolutely clear, I would never put one Miss Teresa Garcia Robertson in danger, and the senator knows this.
All right. I'll tell you what, let's huddle up here to figure out who's going to carry this bill, make sure we get everything covered. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I know it's been a long day, but before we go, we are getting down to the last two potential committee meetings we're going to have. We are definitely going to have one on Monday of next week. We may or may not have one on Wednesday based on lots of different factors. As I mentioned in every meeting, if there's a bill out there that you're particularly enamored with or against, please come talk to me. There's a couple that I'm spending a lot of time with the bill's authors and some other parties who are very interested in it in order to try to perfect those before they come here. But this is, when we get to the end, it's really important we get everything right. So thank you for being here late, and this meeting's hereby adjourned.
We have a subcommittee, public safety
Oh,
subcommittee.
hang on a minute. I'm going to recognize Vice Chairman, the chair of our subcommittee, to talk about his bills and subcommittee.
We do have a public safety subcommittee that will be, the agenda is out, has several bills on it, and it will meet at 7 a.m. Wednesday morning. And I want to be clear, there's been some question about why I hold these subcommittees so early. It is,
Next
it's
Wednesday.
next Wednesday, yeah, I apologize. Next Wednesday. But I've got an insurance subcommittee on Monday at 6 a.m. with multiple House bills in it. And I want to point out the reason I do that is today we had senators having to leave the floor to run to committee, to committee, to committee, to committee. We do not want to put our House friends in that situation. So I try to use the part of the day that is less congested and done. But look at the agenda, and if there's any of these public safety bills that you have concerns about, please reach out to the chairman or myself. But I will tell you this, you save time by reaching out to the chairman because he directs me in which way, what he wants on the agenda, what he does not, and I respect his opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any further comments? Seeing none, this meeting's hereby adjourned.
Thank you.